Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast, where it's all about turning your job search into a slam dunk. Your host is Angela Copeland.
Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Copeland. Live on the phone with me today, I have Jeffrey Hayzlett in New York. Jeffrey is a global business celebrity and former Fortune 100 C-suite executive. He's a leading business expert cited in Forbes, Success, Mashable, Marketing Week, and Chief Executive. Jeffrey's also the author of 2 best-selling business books, including The Mirror Test and Running the Gauntlet. Currently, Jeffrey leads C-Suite Network, the Hayzlett Group, and Tall Grass Public Relations. And when he's away from his home state of South Dakota, Jeffrey can always be found in his trademark cowboy boots. Jeffrey, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thank you. And I'm wearing those cowboy boots right now. It's a pair of alligator Lucchese's, for those people who are shoe fanatics.
Oh, that's awesome. I grew up in Oklahoma, so I have boots, but they typically don't come out all that often.
Yeah, that's for a lot of people. And I mostly work out of New York, and I wear them all the time, and it's a big thing. People see me with them, and they've just become a trademark for some reason. And I just like wearing them, and it's all I ever wear. I've been wearing them for years.
What a great trademark and such a tie back to your home.
Yep. Although we don't have a lot of alligators back in South Dakota, we do have a lot of what we call plastic alligators. My horses, when they see a plastic bag on the ground, they get scared of it. Let's say a plastic bag blows across the prairie or grass.
Uh-huh.
They actually get a little scared of it, and we call those plastic alligators.
Aw.
For some reason, they can't handle it. They don't know what. They go like, what is that? And it's really weird, and they don't like it. So it's always been kind of funny.
Yeah, that's nice. I love horses. It's great. South Dakota is such a beautiful state.
It is. It's home, and I love it, and it's the place I go back to as much as I possibly can. And we have our place in New York City, which we call home, and then we call our home, South Dakota, and we call it our ranch. It's a lot of people call it our ranch. It's not really a ranch, but we have some acres there, and horses and wildlife and eagles. And I live on a river, and I own a bridge, and I have a cannon, and all those things. And it's just a great place for me to go back and recharge.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, I know you've been working on a lot of new projects, and one of them in particular I'm really excited to talk about, which is your new podcast, All Business, with Jeffrey Hayzlett. And I know you had the opportunity to interview a lot of different business leaders. I was actually listening today to your podcast with Steve Forbes.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was especially appreciating when you were talking about content creation.
Well, you look at what Forbes is doing. Forbes has really changed the game, and I applauded Steve for it. I've known Steve for years, having gone to his marketing conferences over the years. They always have a big exclusive CMO conference, and when I was a Fortune 100 CMO, I would go to that, and because of just the people that were there, it was always good. And you got a chance to meet Steve, his brother, and then his daughter, and some of the children that were involved in the business. It's truly a family business. Although they recently sold it for many hundreds of millions of dollars, at least the controlling interest. But Steve and those guys are there, and I applauded them because they've made the changes in the way in which they're going to market, and it hasn't changed anything about the content. People are still excited to get in Forbes, even though a lot of it's pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said to him on that podcast, and when I actually said last night to a group of executives here in L.A. that I was speaking over in Pebble Hills, I said, media's changed. It's really changed, and the old rules don't apply today. And you look for more and more, what I call branded content, branded entertainment, sponsored content that acts and feels as though it's the old journalist approach to it. And I just said, look, consumers are pretty smart. They know when they're getting sold to. All they want is really great content. Give them great content or great entertainment. Either way, they're going to engage with it. And so you have to decide what you like to do. And the better that you can present that in the way they want to see it, whether it's paid for or not, does not make a difference. If they feel as though they're getting shoved down an ad or vomited up information, they will ignore it and they'll rebel against it, which they had for years. That's why we got up and went to the bathroom during commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing holds true today. And so what you just do, if you give them great content, they'll watch it. Like, for instance, even great ads. I mean, some of us watch the Super Bowl just to watch the ads.
Oh, definitely, I do.
Yeah, so there in itself is give them great entertainment or give them great content, and they will engage. And you give them something to excite them, and they will engage. And I said that I think Forbes has done that. They've made some major changes there, and I give them some kudos. I don't like his prognostications around the economy because I think he's all doom and gloom, and I don't agree with it. But other things I get along with him pretty well.
Sure. Well, you can't agree on everything.
Exactly.
Well, I know you've interviewed a number of other business leaders, including, Gene Simmons, Kevin Jonas, a ton of people. I think Gene was your very first podcast guest. Is that right?
Yeah, Gene was my very first for two reasons. One, he said yes, that was good. And two, I like Gene. Even though I helped get him fired on Celebrity Apprentice when he was there, and I was a judge on the show, I like Gene. Gene is an interesting cat. He and I don't always see eye to eye, but he's a very smart marketer.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a guy that's licensed over 3,500 products. He's reinvented himself many times over. And he's just one smart cookie. And the best story that I thought in the podcast, there's always something I learn in every podcast. I end every single podcast with, what I've learned from the interview, from the discussion, my takeaway. But what I enjoyed with Gene, if you remember the story, he and I were talking, and I asked him about his first job, and he described it when he was 6 years old. And you could hear him tell the story as though he was just there. And he actually said in the interview, he says, Jeff, he ended up making about $2 is what it was, his equivalent. He was a young boy living in Israel at the time. He's Israeli, and who migrated here to this country when he was very young. And he described selling pickled or cactus fruit to people as they got off these hot buses when they came home from work out in this little village they lived in, and how he and his friend, I think it was Shlomo or Jaime, I can't remember, it was one of the two, and who were helping him sell. And he ended up buying some ice cream with the money that he made, at least spending about 4 cents on ice cream. And the rest he gave to his mother. But you could hear him describe it as though it was just yesterday.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and his pride in that. And when you get down to Gene Simmons, you take the bravado away, take the the little bit of the shock value that he has somewhat on his show and his persona as a Kiss musician. You've seen him raise two great kids. You've seen him to be a real family man, even though he just was never married over all those years. And then you look back over some even documentaries that have been about Kiss, like when he was married to Cher, and there was a young man that was his stepson at the time said that Gene was the best father he ever knew.
Oh.
So you really get a sense for people's characters in the interviews that I do. That's what I try to bring out. I like to try to bring out something personal about them to really share, because I think when we're a little vulnerable, we're out there, we risk a little bit. I think we get a little bit more out of ourselves, which I'm sure is a lot of the stuff that you do when you coach. To allow people to make mistakes. No one's going to die.
Oh, absolutely. You said that somewhere. I read that. I don't remember if it was in one of your books or one of the talks that you've given, but I just love that.
It is one of my books. It is one of the books, and I do give it in my talks, and it's kind of a mantra of mine, and a lot of people use that as a rallying cry inside of businesses, like, let's go out and take some risks. Let's do something a little different. What are we doing? Especially for those that are in marketing. I do a lot of marketing or work with a lot of about 70% of the population that follows me just on Twitter is our marketers. And and I just kind of throw that out to people. Look, we're mostly marketing on the internet. I mean, give me a break. You're going to make a mistake, and so what? No one's going to die.
Exactly.
I had to remind myself that this morning. I had to remind myself this morning. I lost a deal that was like $25,000. Now, in the big scheme of things, for most people, that's not a big deal. But to me, $25,000 is $25,000. I was freaking about it this morning, and I just finally said, "Hey, God, I'm not going to die." So then I got on the phone, and now I'm working to resell the deal that we just lost, so I can get that small amount covered. But even though it's a small mountain, big business. It's still, I just grew up learning, hey, $25 or $25,000 is still $25,000. So if you're running a business of $25 million, it might not be a big deal, or $2.5 billion might not be a big deal, but it's still $25,000.
Absolutely. I think when you're at the top of what you do, you always want to be a competitor and win and just work really hard. I think it's what often differentiates, just an average person from someone who is able to really push through and be very successful.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, so you've had the opportunity to interview all of these different business leaders that, on the surface sound very, very different when you look at, Steve Forbes versus Gene Simmons. Do you think there are common traits that they all seem to have in common, even though they're very different people?
That's an interesting thing. I think that it depends on what label you put on them. You know what I mean? It depends on, Angela, whether you call them, are they a leader? Are they a business person? Are they Republican? Are they Democrat? I think it depends on what leader. You do see some certain attributes, and I think the best word that I can describe for most really successful people in anything they do is focus.
Mm-hmm.
Is focus. So if you're single-minded focus around your domain of which you want to dominate or to exude great value, let's say you want to be a great father. Well, then you got to focus on certain things, or a great mother. And I think that, if I were to coach people or to lay it out for people and see successful things, you see successful businesses where they're really successful as they focus. They're single-minded on a certain set of conditions of satisfaction which drive their success. And so whether it's Gene Simmons or it's Piers Morgan, who some people might not like, or, Kevin Jonas, who's a very great young man who has started a multi-million-dollar businesses as a result of his rock star career. But why is he still being successful? It's because he's focused on certain things,
mm-hmm.
And he's trying to reinvent himself and so forth. So you typically see that. The other thing I think you see with people who are very successful is they've failed many times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. It's what they do with that failure that sets them apart. They don't quit. It's like, like I just got through saying a few minutes ago, I lost it. All right, move on. You can wallow in your pity for a few minutes. That's okay, because that's just human. But I think it's when you pick it up and keep moving that sets you apart.
Yes, I love those stories of resilience. Like, it's just a really incredible people who can go through very, very difficult things, and they just keep moving, and they learn from it, and they just keep pushing through. It's incredible how different people respond to different kinds of adversity.
Yeah, well, one of the greatest stories, I think, is if you take the history of Abraham Lincoln and look at his failures over life to the point where he was at. He lost election after election. He went bankrupt. He lost, I think, his father. He lost his mother. He lost brothers. He lost sisters. He lost his jobs. He was poor, and one thing after another, and yet he became the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at those things that overcome these huge obstacles in their lives, but yet are successful. And the other thing is, don't let labels label you. I think is a key thing as well. Make your own. You described me in a couple of different labels. Well, like one of those was, I think, global business celebrity. A lot of people call me that. Well, we started utilizing that term as well because, so my own team said, Jeff, well, what does that mean? I said, I don't know, whatever we make it. So let's go, let's go make it. It's whatever we say it is. That's what it's going to be. So let's go do it.
Right.
And I think that's a big portion of what you have to do.
Yeah, it's very much about your personal brand and sort of taking control over it.
Yep, exactly.
So you have a new book, I'm very excited to say, coming out in September, I believe, called Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless.
Awesome title.
Yeah.
and if you watch the trailer, if you go to thinkbigtour.com, which we've just kicked off the pre-launch on the website, it's just a badass video. By the way, I love to have podcasts because I can say ass. That you can say whatever you want, and it's just badass. I'm so tired of the charlatans. I'm so tired of the get rich quick things and mastermind sessions that don't go anywhere, and people who just give crappy advice or don't act. And I finally said, I'm writing a book that says, here's the things to overcome your adversity. Here's the things to overcome, the naysayers, the opportunists, and the people who stand in your way of doing things. And it's just, it's time to think big, act bigger, and and to put things in perspective of you're the one that's standing in your way of getting the things you want to get done, and you got to get past all these rules that we put in place. And one of the first stories I tell is the Caitlin rule. A young woman who was working for me in New York. She's now she's running a multi-million-dollar marketing budget for a major luxury hotel now. But while she was working for us, one of the first days she came to work, she stopped by the office. We were about to go visit with the CEO that we're helping take his company public, which was a very successful IPO and company launch. And she said, should we take color copies to the meeting? I said, well, it's like 30 minutes before the meeting. We got to leave in like 3 minutes, right? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, I'll tell you what, Caitlin, let me see if I can answer this question by asking you a question. Let's imagine that you can ask me 21 questions all month long. Any questions you want. You can ask me what's your favorite restaurant in New York. What does this dress make my rear end look like? What's your favorite color? You could ask me the meaning of life. You could ask me any question you want, but you only get 21. Is that one of the 21 questions you want? She said, I don't think so. I said, well, that's a good career move. And I turned to her and I said, because if I have to answer that question, what the hell do I need you for?
Right.
And I said that. I said, what do I need you for? If I have to answer questions like that, I do not need you. I can make these decisions on my own. I said, I empowered you to do these things. I empowered you to make the decisions on your own, to think big and act bigger. And I said, let me ask you a question. Let's imagine I said yes. Do you have time to make the color copies?
No.
and she said no. She said no. I said, then don't ever ask me a question like that again.
Wow.
And that was the lesson. I call it the Caitlin rule, and I put it in the book, and I asked her permission to put it in the book because I think I give that story almost to every single new employee that I work with, and vendors and companies that I work with, because I don't want them to come and ask me questions they already know the answers to. Mm-hmm. And I want people to act and be empowered to go out and do the things they need to do on their own, and that's what they should be doing.
I'm totally with you. I remember in my previous career, I was a digital marketer. And the first time I took on a job where I was a digital marketing executive, one of my girlfriends said to me, gosh, Angela, when are they going to train you for that job? Like, when are you going to get your training? And I looked at her and I said, if they have to train me, it's probably not the right job for me. Like, yeah. I'm here to do a job, figure it out. Like, nobody needs to train me. I know what to do.
Right. Well, and I've sitting, here I was, a Fortune 100 company once as an officer. I'm sitting in meetings going, man, this place is screwed up, and somebody should do something about it. And then I was looking around the room, and I finally realized, that's me. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for this. Mm-hmm. And so, so I better start, I better not only act I know what I'm doing, but know what I'm doing, mm-hmm. and do it with great confidence. And even if I screw up, well, at least we're heading somewhere, and that's what I started to do. And I started realizing, there's been times in my career where I've sat in the room and thought, man, these guys must be smarter than me, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, And I literally, this is back from the first internet bubble, and I'm in San Francisco, and I'm working with these really smart people, and I was the head of sales and marketing at the time for this company. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, man, this guy's a Harvard MBA, this one's this one's this. They must be, so much smarter than me. They think this is going to do it this way, and I know it's not going to work. And yet I went along with it, and then that's when I realized, no. You trust your gut, believe in yourself, and you can drive it. And so that's what I started to do, and I learned that. So that's what the book is all about.
Oh, that's great.
Overcoming that and speaking up and being transparent and being direct.
You also mentioned in the introduction or the preview on your website, you mentioned hard work. Is that also a big focus of the book?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing. If people People always looking for the magic formula.
I know.
The magic pill. The pill that they can take that will fix everything. Well, guess what? There's no such thing.
Yes.
It's called hard work because it's hard. Okay? That's the nature of the thing. And by the way, I recently spoke at a National Speaker Association. They had a media lab where they had me come in and talk about my television stuff and my television career and what we're doing with, our primetime TV shows, or we're doing our digital shows, my new CBS show. Mm-hmm. And it was all these people that want to go and do what I do. All right? And I got up in front of them and I said, well, first of all, let me talk about these two things. You either want fame or you want fortune. Pick mm-hmm. one, because you're rarely going to get both. There's only a number of us that have been able to get both of those, mm-hmm. So you pick one and hope you get the other, or just be satisfied with one, And I said, but more importantly, let me tell you what. And I said to everybody in this room, I said, with all due respect, most of you won't do the things I've had to do to get where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want you to realize that what I'm doing up here isn't luck, it's a very driven strategy, and you're going to get rejected, you're going to be beaten on, you're going to be spit on, you're going to be, talked about behind your back. They're going to people who are going to, burn you to get ahead. That's the nature of the television business. That's the nature of the media business by and large. And whether you like it or not, you're just going to have to work harder and harder and harder and overcome all the obstacles that we put in your place. And I said, you know what? And most of you want to do that. So you better understand before you get started, that's what it's like. Mm-hmm. It's called hard work because it's hard. And so, are there some lucky people in the world? Sure, absolutely. They win the lottery, whatever. But you know what? First of all, they bought a ticket, and that's one, okay? So, or they bought a lot of tickets, but they bought it, and they won. But outside of that, the people you see that are very, very successful, what they do is they work very, very hard, and they give up things to make that happen. And, that's the formula. There's the magic pill.
Absolutely. They give up things. I totally agree with that. I often find myself working on the weekend and at night, and people will say to me, Angela, why are you working so hard? You need to relax. You have your own business. And I'm like, I feel like we're missing the point.
Well, that's what you like doing. I mean, my wife will sometimes say, you do this if you didn't get paid, and she's right, because yes. I enjoy it, But, how we, getting paid is how we keep score. So, I like a big score, mm-hmm. So I like to win big, but it's just really, you get rewards by being relentless. You get rewards by being, consistent, reliable, and hard, and making effort. And that's how it's done. Sometimes you can work smarter without question, but if you work hard, I guarantee you it will be successful. And in a number of different ways. It might only, it might not be you might not be the richest, but you'll be the the person who is so proud of what you do, and so forth and so on. So there's lots of different ways that you can look at the rewards of being relentless, and it's just a matter of first being relentless.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I see this with a lot of the clients that I speak with, and a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are looking for a job. And when I came out of graduate school and undergraduate school, I interviewed like it was a hobby. I found it to be really fun and interesting.
I game everything. I love game. But a lot of people say, write me back on social media and say, well, thank you, whoever wrote this for Jeff. I said that, I get that all the time, and I write back, nope, it's me. Because, I spend the weekend sending out messages. Every morning I get up very early, and I check the happy birthdays, and I send everybody a happy birthday message. Mm-hmm. I do. And sometimes that's like 100 people. But, I don't care, because that's their special day. And I can't tell you the number of times people have just said, oh, my God, I can't believe you've written to me, blah, blah, blah. Well, because I just know how special my birthday is. I like my birthday. And I like people telling me it's my birthday, because it's the one day that, from the time I was really little, my mother said I was very special, and I've never forgot that, right? And we're all that way, And so but on the weekends, I'll sit down and knock out 800 direct mail letters by myself. I use my little tool, which is, by the way, I'm going to give everybody a hint. This is a tool. It's called Witty Parrot, and they have these little thing called Wits, and you can drag and drop, and I can do 800 letters, knock them out individually by myself, one after another, and personalize every one of them. And things like that. It's just fun. I just built a new wit here a minute ago on the book. So because I'm telling people about the book all the time now. And so, it's just fun. I enjoy that.
Yeah, it's good to do what you like, and it makes such a big difference, like those little personal touches. Well, another big project that you work on is a TV show called C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett, and you interview C-Suite executives at some huge companies like Dunkin' Donuts, CrossFit, and Domino's Pizza, which is so exciting. Do you actually get to go into the businesses?
Oh, yeah, that's part of the thing. I mean, we spend a lot of time. You might only see 30 minutes of finished tape, but we've done 3 days on site, and and numerous days in briefing materials. If you saw I get a 3-ring binder of briefing on each company that my team puts together. People like Jenna and Allison and Linda and John, who do a great job for me, just preparing these are my producers and production assistants and executive assistants, and so they brief me first, and then we sometimes go into the businesses ahead of time, but certainly while we're there, that's the premise of the show, is I take people inside the C-suite, inside the rooms, the offices of the executives in these companies. I take people in places that 99% of the people who work at the company never get to step a foot in.
Right.
And that's what I think is really unique, because I've been in there, and there, it's kind of interesting because there's this lore about the meetings and where you sit, or if you're in the company playing the unwritten rules about who sits where and stuff like that, and God forbid you sit in the wrong seat, to end your career, so to speak. But, you learn certain places where people do sit in the meetings and things like that. But the little secrets of the C-suite. And so my premise is I take them in there and we talk about the things that happen. Why is that? Why did you make this decision? Where were you sitting when you made it? What did you say? What did you think when he said it? Or she said it? And I just think, to me, that's fascinating. I know people like it because it's the number one show. It had been the number one show on Primetime when it was on Bloomberg, and now we're doing it as a digital show because we see more people who listen to podcasts or watch TV online. I mean, when was the last time you rushed home to watch a Primetime TV show, much less a business show?
Right, never.
Well, come on, you break my heart now. So but I do realize that. I'm enough of a business person to realize that you just don't. And so people used to tape my or VCR it. So God, why can't I just put it online and you can watch it whenever you want, or I send it to you, or you get an RSS feed of it, and those kind of things. So that's what we're doing.
That's great. So when you have gone into all these businesses, is there anything in particular that you've noticed that some of the businesses who are doing really well are doing different than their competition? Like, what makes them stick out?
What makes them stick out than their competition? I think it's always it's usually an adherence to doing whatever they're going to do better than anybody else. See, I always talk about in my talks, especially in Running the Gauntlet, I talk about a brand. And a brand is two things. One, if the brand has become synonymous with the name of the company and or the promise of the company, and that's what it really is. So let me get to that. So first of all, brand is something that you always put on a cow, occasionally a horse. That's where the word brand came from. It's from cowboys who identified their livestock. So it's a mark on the side of a bovine. And that's what it is. All right. Or it's what it's become for business. It's not your logo. It's not your look. It is the promise of what you deliver to your customer. So the businesses that are truly, truly successful, that are better than their competition, are saying and understand what it is that is my promise to my customer, and how do I deliver that, and impeccably deliver it. And those are the brands that we love more than any others, right? It's just like, you might not always like McDonald's, but you know what it is. And when you're in a foreign country, almost everybody I know goes to a McDonald's because you know what you're going to get.
It's consistent.
Yeah, it's I was telling somebody yesterday because they called me in the news to get my thoughts about it. Everybody's always beating up on McDonald's about having unhealthy food. Well, then it doesn't say McHealth.
Right.
It says McDonald's, and it's a fast food company, not a healthy company. They're a burger joint. And in my opinion is McDonald's should say, shut up everyone, and we make fast burgers. That's what we make. We aren't in the business of health. Now, if you want health, go eat a tree. So and that's what and that's what you should be. You should be who you are. It's like when people come to me and say, "Well, you should do this, you should do that." Well, you know what? I don't do that. This is what I do, and if you don't like it, I got it. Hit the road. If you like it, great. Welcome it. I'm pretty comfortable about the things I want to do and how I want to do them, and that's the way most companies should get. And they shouldn't lose their focus of what is their core promise. What is the promise they're delivering to the customer? And what McDonald's delivers in the way in which they deliver it is fast. Now, it's not great. After you eat one, quite frankly, most of the time I'm going, why did I eat that? But that's what they are. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's consistent. It's not a surprise that it's not good for you.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's like, not everything's good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you also have in your book, Running the Gauntlet, you talk about the new elevator pitch, which I love. You even talk about it with regards to a digital version. And I know, a lot of our listeners are out there giving elevator pitches when they're looking for jobs or when they're trying to pitch their existing company on giving them a promotion. Why do you think the elevator pitch is so important?
Well, when I was at Kodak, all these vendors who used to come to me, I was cutting vendors left and right, you can imagine. And, I had 3,500 vendors. I mean, I can't have that many people I'm doing business with. I just can't, and do a good job for them and for the quality of product that we're trying to create and so forth. So I trimmed it down to about 170. I needed to get it down to about 100. Why? It was just a number I picked. But I kept going because the fewer vendors, the more concentration I could get on what I wanted.
Sure.
So I started asking them all to come in and give me pitches. And, an elevator pitch, it's something you're supposed to be doing in an elevator ride.
Right.
Well, these buildings had to be like, 3 countries long, for them to be able to, get their thing, because they'd spend an hour and a half, and at the end of the 48-page, PowerPoint presentation, I still don't know what they did. So I finally just started saying, look, here's what I want, 118 seconds. Everybody said, why is that? Well, 8 seconds is the average attention span of an adult. I know that because I looked it up on the internet. Okay, there we go. There's the truth. So, and then 110 seconds is the average elevator ride in New York City. Now, and that's from the time you press the button, get on the elevator, and ride up or ride down and get off. So that's how much time you have. You have 8 seconds to hook me. And that's where you get that lean-in factor that we talk about. And if you've ever listened, Angela, to somebody who said something and you thought it was so provocative, you kind of lean in. Well, that's in sales provocative called, sales parlance is something that's saying something so provocative or, causing cognitive dissonance that you lean in and you're about to set the hook. So it's your hook. And it's the hook in which you gain attention, whatever that might be. It's, if I showed you something that would, change your life forever and it only took you 3 seconds a day, would you be interested? Something along, but something that says, wow, yes, I want to know what the rest of the story is. And then the 110 seconds is, tell me your value. Tell me the value of what this means to me. And that's really the new digital version of the elevator pitch. It's 118 seconds, 8 seconds to hook me, 110 seconds to show me the value. And that's it. It's not, that's what you have to create. And that's the new digital version.
That's great. I think this is such an important message because I talk with people all the time who say, I know I was the smartest person to interview for that job, or I know I had the best education. And the question, though, is often, but how did you present yourself? Like, what was their first impression of you? Did you sell that? Because oftentimes I think someone who may be less qualified but sells themselves better may be the one that gets hired or the one that sells the product first.
Oh, all the time. I mean, we own a public relations company called Tallgrass, and we have 2 things that we talk about depending on the message. So first of all, it's the theme of the company Tallgrass, and so let me back up. First of all, we usually tell companies we only work with high growth clients. That's it. And we never say much other than that. We just say, they say, well, what kind of work do you do? We only work with high growth clients, and then we shut up. Well, then they can try to convince us that they're high growth clients. If they, which is great because then you hook them. If the other piece of it is if they have to ask us, well, what's high growth client? We say, well, you're not one, and we don't want to work with you. Because if you have to ask, then you're not one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the slogan for Tallgrass, and some people are offended by this, and we're okay with that, is if you want to run with the big dogs, you got to learn to piss on the tall grass.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the slogan for the company, and so that does offend some people. Great, you just washed out of our pool that we don't want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a high growth company and you're the kind of company that understands and identifies with that statement, that's the kind of companies we want to do business with, because we don't have to second guess. We don't have to play around. It means the fact that you drank that Kool-Aid that we just talked about,
Mm-hmm.
you get it, and we can move at a much faster speed. So those are the kind of things you have to start to figure out, is how that positioning of even yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you can get a good sense for me. One, I got a pretty good ego, got a good sense of myself. I'm just as vulnerable as anybody else, but I got a good sense of who I am and what I can do, and and this is the parameter I fit, and I can sell that,
Mm-hmm.
and position that, and so that's where a lot of people, as you're coaching them, and people who are listening here, is get a good sense of who you are and what you deliver, and then make sure you tell that story, because nobody else is going to tell it as good as you are.
That's right. And so often people will come in, especially young people, and they'll say, I can do anything, and I don't want to pitch myself in a particular way because I don't want to put myself into a box. And all you're going to get is closed doors at that point, because...
Yeah, I don't want to talk. You just make me mad hearing that story about that young person. Just
Right.
makes me mad listening to that. Because, what do I care? You want to put in the box. I don't care. I do not care.
That's right. People need to understand what it is that you do. So you need to represent yourself and be there to sell yourself and what it is that you can do for them.
Yeah.
Well,
I got to tell you, I just had somebody who just called me a major corporation. Well, I'll just say, it's Xerox. And somebody was going for a job there, and they called me for a reference for this person. And I said, what would you like me to tell them? I said, well, you give us a sense of who they are. I said, well, let me just put it this way. I said, if I were in a war and I had to have somebody in the foxhole with me, I would want this woman in the foxhole.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
And it was just a professional woman. And I said, the second thing is I'm going to tell you is you have to be an absolute idiot if you don't hire her.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, and he goes, that's a pretty strong statement. I said, she's that good. I said, if I could get her to move to where I'm at right now, she would be working for me. I cannot offer her enough money because she is so conscious about the community that she is, the company that she's presently working for, and her children.
Uh-huh.
And I said, that says something about her character. And I said, I can convince anybody of anything, and I still can't convince her. I think she's one of the greatest people I've ever worked with, and you would have to be an absolute idiot not to hire someone as trustworthy, as loyal, and as talented as that person. I said, now, do you need anything else? And he goes, nope. I said, congratulations, because you just picked up. And this is the actual conversation. I swear to goodness. I said, congratulations, because you just picked up one of the best employees you've ever seen in your life.
Oh,
and then we hung up. And we hung up. That was the extent of the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important, too. I mean, I think it demonstrates, too, when people are out there looking for jobs, it's important that you know who is going to be speaking on your behalf as a reference, like how they speak about you. Because sometimes, too, someone may think positive things about you, but they may not be the most confident at expressing them and really selling you. And you need someone like you who can be an advocate for yourself when you're out there looking.
You got it. Exactly.
So back to talking about fast food, just really quick. You gave an example in your book, The Mirror Test, that I really enjoyed because I've been in this situation myself. I was actually in the back seat of the car when it happened. But you mentioned being in a drive-through restaurant and...
I'm laughing already. Yeah, go ahead.
So the employees, I guess, at the drive-through, they were running behind or something, and they asked you, like, hey, could you pull into that little space or pull ahead and wait for us to get your food ready? And I think probably to their surprise, you said, no, I'll be right here, right outside the window, waiting for my food when you get it ready.
Right.
And it sounds like it went on for a little while.
No, it sure did. Look, anytime this happens, we made a deal. I gave you my order, you took it. I gave you my money, you took it. I pulled up to the window expecting my food, and you're not giving it to me. That's breaking a promise. You want to break the promise? Fine. Then let's negotiate something. I'm not pulling up over there to parking purgatory on your behalf just so you can, push me off. if you want to renegotiate the promise, give me one of those McMinty shakes I like, or one of those apple pies. Oh, great, I'll move up. But you didn't offer it. Okay, What you did is you just told me to pull forward. You didn't even ask me, really. I mean, even if you're asking, you're not really asking. What you're doing is saying you have a failure to deliver on the promise that you said, an implied promise, and you took my order, you took my money, yet now you're not delivering on your promise. I don't buy that, and I don't put up with that. And I'm not being a hard ass or a pain in the butt. I'm just being a good customer. And a good customer says no. Okay? A good customer says, no, that's not what we signed up for. What I signed up for was that when I pulled up to this window, within a reasonable amount of time, you're going to give me my food. Not to pull over here to Parking Purgatory, where you're going to bring it out to me whenever you feel comfortable. You've already broke one promise. Now you want me to pull up here again, so I have to wait until you break another promise? I'm not doing it. So I do this in every fast food restaurant I ever go to, where I pull up and they say, "Would you mind pulling forward?" And I go, "No, I'll wait." And they say, "Well, sir, you're going to hold up people." I don't mind. I'll sit here all day if that's what it takes. And you'd be surprised how much faster they come and take care of you.
Yeah.
And of course, my family cringes, and so forth. But I think that's being a good customer. And you would do that with a vendor. You would do that with someone in your business. If someone comes to you and says, "I'm only going to deliver half the stuff you order," what? And by the way, I'm going to deliver it. I'm going to deliver all the stuff that you ordered, but I'm going to deliver it to you 2 weeks late after your sales started. Whoa! What do you mean? I'm hungry now. I want my food. So that's the reason I came to a fast food. If I want to go to a slow food restaurant, I would go in and order it. So those are the things we have to think. It's just important to be a good provider. It's just as important to be a good customer. It's great to be a great performer, but you also have to be a great customer. And a lot of leaders aren't great customers.
I agree. I actually thought about this story yesterday. No kidding. I'm having a problem with my website, and I have been emailing directly with the CEO of the company. It's a really large company that I won't name, but and I felt like I was being a little bit of a pain. I thought, I remember that story about the fast food.
Yeah, it's not being a pain. It's just being a good customer. Well, I'm not going away. I paid for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I bulleted out very clearly, the problems I'm having and very clearly how they're impacting my business. I'm not being rude, but I'm saying these are the problems that you're obligated to help me to fix. And I'm going to be here waiting and holding you accountable until you do, because it's causing a problem. And I don't think they get that kind of feedback very often. It seemed like they were pretty surprised.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I just have a couple more quick questions. One is, first of all, you've hired, I'm sure, a number of employees over the years. And I'm curious in terms of when you're, looking for someone like the woman that you described who you gave the great reference for, what are you looking for in a new employee?
Oh, well, there's so much. I'm looking for, probably the best thing is transparency and honesty. And, I'm okay with people who don't always deliver as long as you tell me where you're at, or, I'd rather have you deliver, I'd rather have you overachieve, but I also rather have people who are realistic. And I'm looking for great reliability. That's a big piece of it, So it's really around trust. Trust has three components to it. Trust, first of all, sincerity. So I'm looking for people who are truly sincere, that believe the things that they're saying. And I'll grant you sincerity, but then I'm going to look for competency and reliability. That you're competent at the things that you can do and that you're reliable in being able to deliver that competency. And that therein lies trust, and that's the things I probably look the most for.
What about, so I talk with a lot of people. I write about this issue a lot too, because I get this question so much. People will come in and they'll be like 40 years old and they'll say, I was thinking about going back to college because I don't have a degree in marketing and I want to do marketing, but my degree's in something else. I mean, what do you think if they don't have quite the exact educational background?
Well, then they can get it. Do they have the aptitude? Do they have the drive? Do they have the ability to go and get it done? They can pick that up on the job. Why not go to work for a smaller company and help them as you grow and they grow?
Yay! Yes.
You said that earlier. If you had to be trained for it, you wouldn't want the job because it's part of learning on the job. Look, I have a college education. I never finished college. I'm a couple of credits short. And I became, probably one of the best-known chief marketing officers in the world. And, I'm now in 4 Hall of Fames, business Hall of Fames, a 4-peater in 4 different industries. And so, you can do it. It doesn't mean you have to have the formal education to be able to do it. You can learn and adapt and get it. And I just think there's so many times that I don't know the things I don't know, but I go and learn, or I go find out those people and surround myself with some of the best people who can teach and mentor me to get it done. They don't have to be a formal mentor, but, it could be just learning and observing and seeing how they do it, and I could do those things too. So go get the skill sets, do it.
I love that feedback, and that's the exact message that I give to people. My undergraduate degree is actually engineering, and, I tell people I was able to become a marketer and become, go through, be a technologist and these other things with a background that's totally different. You just put yourself out there. You sometimes have to work for free or for less or, on the weekends to learn some of this stuff, but you can take the initiative and go out there and figure stuff out. You don't have to sit in a classroom and be told how to do everything.
Exactly. And, my degree was in government and international affairs, and here I am doing marketing and business. So, go figure.
See?
You can do what you like to do and make it happen without question. I absolutely love that.
Yes, absolutely. So my very last question, I recently spoke to somebody who their lifetime goal is to become a chief marketing officer, and you are very well known for being the CMO of Kodak previously. And I was just wondering if there's any advice that you might share with this person on how to set this long-term goal and in terms of anything they might want to do to get there.
Well, begin with the end in mind. So where is it you want to do? What are the vertical markets that you're best adapt at? How many people do you know at the level that you want to achieve in terms of being able to reach those people? It's not always what you know, it's who you know. And in this case, you're going to have to, to be at that level, be able to perform, but it's also, you have to be picked. You have to get noticed. And so, the best thing you can do is start networking into the groups that you want to be able to go and work for, and network with the kinds of people that are going to select you.
Yes.
That's how I got the job that's how I've gotten every job. A great friend of mine, who's down in your area and lives down in your area in Dallas. His name is Bob Bodine. And if you've not read this book, it's called The Power of Who. Everything that you want in life, you already know. So who do you know? So it's The Power of Who. And I love his book. I love to read that book. I love to preach that. And to I typically young people, I send them his book, but not always. I send a lot of people who are in middle careers to go into a second career and saying, let me tell you, man, work your network. There's not a day that goes by that I don't hear back from some person I used to work with in the past saying, Jeff, I just lost my job. I'm been downsized, or this has happened, and I'm now reaching out. Well, you should have been reaching out before that happened. Okay? That's when you should have been building this network like I have done for my entire career, so that when bad shit happens, good stuff opens up. Okay? And well, if you haven't done that, the next best time is to start today. Right this very minute. And quit wasting time, because it's who you know that will get you what you want. And so get moving on it.
And you can't have your hand out to every person that you network with.
Heck no. Look, the reason people will tell you that know me inside and out, and there's a lot of people that know me because I've got, literally tens of thousands of friends. And the reason I have tens of thousands of friends is because I help them. Okay? I don't sit there and say, what's in it for me? First of all, is what can I do for you? And if I can do things for you, maybe I'll get something in the future. If nothing else, I get a great feeling from that. So I'm, and sometimes even my own business partners go, why are you talking to these people? Because you know what? I know what it's like. And I remember what that's like. And so if I can help somebody somewhere, sometime, someplace, maybe it's going to come back to me. Even if it doesn't, it comes back to me in karma. It comes back to me in knowing that I did something for somebody else. And I'm okay with that. And by the way, I've always found out that pays off, and that's what I believe it's been a great big piece of my success has been the people that I've worked with and the people I've helped, because they've in turn bent over backward to help me.
Yes, you got it. It's a lifelong sort of practice. It's not just something that you pick up one day.
But I didn't make up this thing, you got to give to get.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else did that. And let me tell you what, there's a practice to it, and that's what you got to remember. You don't get, and then give.
Mm-hmm.
You give to get. Okay?
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been fantastic. Jeffrey, I really appreciate you taking the time. If our listeners are interested to tune into your podcast or watch...
Please. They got to go to play.it, Play, play.it. It's All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett on that CBS network, which is their podcast network is play.it. You can go to my website, Hayzlett.com. You can Google me, Hayzlett. There's a couple of us out there named Hayzlett, but you'll see me mostly. And then you can find our TV show on csuitetv.com.
And we should look for your book in September. Is that right? Think Big, Act
Yeah,
Bigger?
look for it. You can order it now. It's under the www.Think Big Tour, thinkbigtour.com. Be a part of it. If you want to be someone who's thinking big, jump in, sign up.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to reading it. Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Tune in next week for another edition of the Copeland Coaching Podcast. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher to ensure you never miss an episode.
Thank you for listening to the Copeland Coaching Podcast today with your host, Angela Copeland. Tune in next time to get more great tips on turning your job search into a slam dunk.